Real eSavvy Radio, your guide to more informed home ownership. Today, Christopher Cox talks with Larry Woods, CEO of the Housing Authority of Winston-Salem, about that organization's recent restructuring. Then, investment banker Algernon Cash is in the studio to discuss real estate investing in the Triad. Let's get started.
Welcome to Real eSavvy. I'm here with Larry Woods of the Housing Authority of Winston-Salem. Been in that position since 2006. Came here from Philly.
Yes, came from Philadelphia. Originally born in New York. Interesting background. My mom and dad at Arkham, North Carolina met in elementary school.
Okay. Here?
In Raleigh.
Okay.
And moved to New York, where myself and my brother was born. And my wife, whose parents came from same background, met in elementary school, got married, and moved from Florence, South Carolina to New York City. And we lived in two different public housing developments. And we lived there when public housing didn't have a subsidy. It was prior to what's called the Brooke Amendment. So we have a different experience and understanding of the opportunities that public housing offers and the way in which families can move themselves back into the mainstream. So that background, I think, lent itself for some of the things that we're trying to do here in Winston-Salem. But I've also worked in Philadelphia as the Hope 6 program manager for the Philadelphia Housing Authority. Had about a $61 million project, all federally funded. We built an 80-unit senior building with all the bells and whistles. We renovated units. We built some new housing units also.
What year was that? Because I too am from Pennsylvania. A similar background, like my parents are from Surrey County, and they relocated to Harrisburg, or a little town outside of Harrisburg called Stilton.
Okay.
So
I arrived in Philly in November of '94.
So which project, Hope 6 project, which of the properties was
Richard Allen Homes. That was the first one. And right across the street, we built what was called the Gladys B. Jacobs Manor. And that was a name that the resident council leadership came up with. Gladys B. Jacobs was one of the oldest public housing tenants living in Richard Allen. And as an honor to the contributions she's given to that community, they decided to name the senior building after her. And it's a lovely building, and you should just stop by and see it.
Yeah, well, I remember very well when they redid the Diamond Street.
Yep.
And that was probably around the same time, right?
That was right after ours. That's correct. Ours was the first. We were the kind of vanguard to start this thing out. Yeah. Okay. At that time, John White was the executive director of the Housing Authority, and then after John White, Mr. Carl Green came in. And Carl had some great ideas, good businessman, and I learned a lot from him. Yeah,
we were there. I never met you then, but I remember when, in fact, in my second interview on WTOB, John White Jr. was my first interview on WDAS.
Okay.
First time I did my show, I was so nervous. I was like, "Oh man," he was like, like coach, like, "Come on, man, come on."
he's a very warm-hearted and down-home individual. He really, speaking with him, you really think you know each other for many. He makes you very comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, and he can see you now,
exactly.
and 6 months from now, I told you he was like the consummate retail politician. Because he remembered your name, he remembered the last conversation you had.
That's right.
Like, and he made you feel, what the hell, I didn't know I was, important.
Well, exactly. he could make you feel important.
Right.
I mean, and with his background and his network connections, you say, wow, he actually has me in this network now. And all of a sudden somebody says, well, John White asked me to talk to you. And you feel proud. You're like, wow, he still remembers me. Yeah.
So, since you come in and got involved with Halls, tell me a little bit about the structure here. You talked about the Hope 6 project there, and how does that, just the whole structure of Halls?
Well, the structure of Halls, we reinvented ourselves. When I came in 2006, we were not in the best financial situation. There was a lot of scandal going on. There was some mismanagement, and required a whole new reorganization. In that reorganization, we decided to remake ourselves and rebrand ourselves, to think outside the box. So what we did is we decided that our core business wasn't public housing, but our core business was the management of affordable housing. which says that we should be able to manage not just public housing, but also other subsidized housing, manage housing for Section 8 landlords. So we say, well, we need to be a real estate company. So right now we are a North Carolina licensed real estate company. We got licensed brokers on our staff that manage our properties. And we have diversified our portfolio. We not just manage public housing, which is our largest housing stock, residential. We also manage private properties, some affordable and some that we own ourselves that we keep the rents low. We also own 2 office buildings that also bring in the other revenue. So as there's budget cuts from Washington, D.C., though we yell and scream like any other agency would do, we do have second and third income streams that help soften the blow of the loss of federal revenues. Once we got the real estate arm up, we said that why aren't we doing more in terms of maintenance? And so we sent some staff for training, and they got their North Carolina general licenses contract. So we are now a North Carolina licensed general contractor, fully bonded, and we've done work for ourselves. We've taken on full projects and totally rehab units. We're now buying property and rehabbing them. And we also now doing work for other housing authorities. We also manage 2 other housing authorities. One is the Madison Housing Authority in Rockingham County. We're also managing the Princeville Housing Authority out in Edgecombe-Nash County. So we're a little bit different than your typical housing authority, and so we pride ourselves on that. And our ultimate goal is, once again, is to help families transition themselves from public housing or subsidized housing back into the mainstream as quickly as possible. So
you're gonna make me digress just because of what you said and just having an understanding. Is the 4th Street property one that's owned by the Halls? Where your headquarters?
That is owned by an instrumentality of Hawes.
Okay.
Okay, and Hawes is a tenant in that building.
Okay.
Okay, and we have other tenants. We have, of course, a National Eye Care Centers there. We have an accounting firm, a legal firm. We have a candy store in the building. We have other professional services, as well as human service professionals, as well as lawyers who rent space from us. So we're saying that because we have a building that's not totally owned and operated by the Housing Authority, but just a tenant, it gives us this unrestricted non-federal funds that we can use either to improve the building or be a better tenant on 4th Street. Our goal is to become one of the crowning buildings on 4th Street where folks will come and say, that's the Lowy building, named after Raymond J. Lowy, the famous architect here in Winston-Salem.
Okay. So as they, from public housing, I have no understanding of this. Mm-hmm. So the value goes up in some of the properties. From what I'm hearing, mm-hmm. everything has risen in value. But a lot of them. Yes. Not just on 4th Street, but from the investments that you've made back into public housing resource sites. How does that affect your bottom line and the structure of Halls that your portfolio of value has gone through the roof based on where it was at when you first took
What
over?
we've done is it's a symbiotic relationship. We've taken neighborhoods in what we call economically challenging neighborhoods and either totally demolished the existing building and built brand new under a different structure. One of the ones that we're very proud of is the Oaks at 10th. It is one that has won architectural awards and has won the Diamond Award from the Piedmont Triad Apartment Association, which is a very high honor. That building or that complex could fit anywhere in any downtown city in America. You would not know it's subsidized housing. That's how it was geared. To live there, though, we got permission from HUD that to live there you must be employed or have income coming in.
Okay.
So we have a different type of tenant there. They're more motivated. Our next step is to work with these tenants and getting them prepared to get their credit repaired and hopefully have a bank come in pre-approve them. So if they're interested in buying a home and become a homeowner, that would be great. Others just want to become more financially stable. That's fine with us, and they're more than welcome to stay there. But the ultimate goal is to help folks transition out of subsidized housing back into the mainstream, into affordable housing. Affordable doesn't mean $1,300, $1,400 a month for a one bedroom. We're talking about probably $600, $700 a month. We think a family of 2 working full time should be able to afford a unit of that size, and should live decently.
Okay. Let's talk about the departments at Halls, like the different...
We do have several different departments. Again, we're not structured like a typical housing authority. We do have what's called our Housing Choice Voucher Program. We manage about 4,500 to 4,700 vouchers on an annual basis. That provides rental assistance directly to landlords for residents who qualify to rent units. And that could either be in an apartment building, it could be in a single family home, it could be in a condo, cooperative complex, wherever. We also manage special vouchers just for veterans, or we manage vouchers just for folks with that are physically challenged. And also, we have vouchers coming from the court system called family unification vouchers, where families are being torn apart because of the lack of affordable housing. So we have vouchers that help keep those families together. So that's one huge department, and that is our biggest federally funded program, about $22 million a year. Then we have the traditional public housing, like Cleveland Avenue Homes, Piedmont Park, etc. Those are what we called standard low-income public housing units, and the rents there are 30% of your adjusted income. So the minimum rent is $50. Some individuals pay $125, $175. Regardless of the size of the unit. It could be a one-bedroom unit or it could be a three-bedroom unit. Rent is based upon your income, not based upon what it costs us to operate. Then we have some private market units that is run by a company called Imperial Property Management. That's our real estate arm, and they manage Drayton Pines and Plaza Apartments, which we either lease from the city or we own outright. We also manage a new project called Fairview Landing and Bethlehem Point. Those bring in incomes, and we keep the rents there quite low, and folks that live there now are very pleased with what we've done in changing the community. Now, the investments that we're making in these communities, we believe the surrounding community is starting to benefit. One is you're getting $4 or $5 million economic development, right next door, right across the street from your existing home. The fact that the units have won awards means that your property value is starting to go up.
And you're doing the curb improvements.
Curbside appeal, that's right. We want curbside appeal. We get our biggest compliments from local political figures, but police, plus the local police officers. They drive by and said, this place is quiet day and night. There's never a problem. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the reasons is, again, we have a requirement of work requirement. So folks, they go to work, come home like everyone else, they're tired, go to bed, and they get back up again. But the goal is that they're very motivated, and so we are coming up with a home ownership program for our public housing tenants who live in our step-up housing. That's our next step.
Are you negotiating with a major bank or somebody? Let me ask it like this. Has someone made a commitment from a major bank to make that part of their CRA, Community Reinvestment Act portfolio?
I tell you, we already have relationship with several banks, BB&T, Wells Fargo. We now have a relationship with Carolina Bank and First Citizens Bank, and with the Winston-Salem Federal Credit Union. They come in and do a lot of things with our residents. One, they do financial literacy, show folks the benefits of managing your household budget, how to set up a household budget, how to manage your checking account, why a credit or FICO score is important. As tenants' rents are going up and as they become more financial literate, they then get the opportunity to become pre-approved for a mortgage. So these banks at times will provide a pre-approval, so allow these families to go out and actually on the market and look for an affordable home ownership unit. Now they're on the road from being a renter to a homeowner, where now they have some assets that can grow in equity, that they can draw down from rather than constantly paying rent after year and getting nothing back from it. So again, those families are slowly transitioning back into the mainstream. That is what we're trying to do right now. We just got approved from HUD to build 17 new single-family units. That they've allowed us to use our own construction crew to be the general contractor and bring in subs as we need them, get them built. We're in the last phases of getting the architectural drawings done and have them reviewed by the city planning department. As soon as that is done and the financing is all in place, we will then move forward and start building. Concurrently, we'll be identifying families who are interested in living there. They can live there for any number of years, as long as they agree to be involved in financial literacy, credit repair, etc. And if they want to buy that unit, they have the first right of refusal.
Wow. That is a lot of accomplishment.
It's different than your traditional housing authority. Again, we think the housing authorities shouldn't be painted with a broad brush. We view ourselves as being different, and that's some of the things that I don't take credit for. We have a great board of directors, and we have great staff. The staff has really got behind a vision and has helped move that vision. And this could not be done without them. I mean, basically, I'm not out there with the hammers and nails. I'm not out there interviewing tenants or fixing broken doors. We have maintenance, we have management, we have property management, and we have a specialist working with the Section 8 families. Those are the true leaders of our community.
With all those accomplishments come setbacks.
Yes, sir.
From time to time, and disappointment.
Yes, sir.
What have you had to overcome? That you want to talk about?
I have nothing to hide.
Well, not to hide,
of
but
course.
You know, some of us had setbacks. I got setbacks and disappointments I don't want to talk about.
well, I tell you what I've told staff is that I don't mind setbacks. As long as we understand exactly what was the cause of the setback and was it in our control, and let's not make that same mistake again. Let's learn from it. So yes, we have applied for funding, or we applied for mortgage financing, and either we were turned down or we wasn't selected. Those are some of the setbacks. The big setbacks we have is the outdated federal rules and regulations. We think there's a time, and we was hoping that this new administration would come in and at least have a forum where individuals like myself could come in and sit around a round table to discuss changes and directions of the use of federal resources and improving the lives of families rather than continuing the dependency that we wind up placing on families. Those are some of the disheartening issues and setbacks that I find myself wrestling with. And I can't cross over the line, but then I'm breaking the law. So what we tell, and I've said this to Secretary Carson, is that we do push the envelope, but we don't break the seal. So he laughed at that. But yeah, we've done some things, and I've testified before Congress about my agency. I've sat in some conferences with other agencies that I've heard some of my same phrases and comments being used. So I think our message is getting out there, is that as residents become dependent on federal government, agencies should not be. So therefore, we're trying to come up with second and third income streams to help support our own mission.
That leads to the next question, which you kind of answered, but assume you interact with other heads of other housing authorities from across the country. How are some of the issues that challenge Winston-Salem or that you face personally similar to other localities across the country?
Biggest challenge is, of course, the federal cutbacks. Some of them are deep, and also the slow receiving of dollars. For us, we've overcome that by, again, remaking ourselves over into a real estate company. Other authorities, unfortunately, had to take the traditional method of balancing the budget. That is staff layoffs. Most housing authorities across America, there's a predominance of females employed there. Some of them are head of households, or they have a spouse or a significant other that is not able to work full time due to a number of reasons. To try to figure out how to keep them employed, not to use all your resources and assist the agency in bringing additional dollars. We said that we just couldn't sit by and let that happen. So other authorities have been in contact with us and said, can you show us how you got your real estate license? Can you show us how you're saving money? How are you negotiating, around these rules and regulations? Where we can, we will help them. Other times we do have to charge a fee. Sometimes they think that because we're brother and sister agencies, we should do it out of the kindness of our heart.
So you're actually act as a consultant in some capacity.
Yes, that is correct. And we believe that if we do have to charge a fee, is well below market, and we provide more information than your regular consultant would. And we give them more than what they ask for. So we think we do a very good job in that.
Political landscape. You mentioned Dr. Carson.
Yes.
Secretary Dr. Carson.
Yes, sir.
A lot of things have changed.
Yes, sir.
I had James Perry, the CEO of the Urban League, Winston-Salem, and I just said, well, look, all I'm going to say is, what's up? But I'll say in the changing political landscape, ever-changing political landscape, how has that affected you? And maybe I'm asking this something that you've answered, but
no problem. Just before Dr. Carson was confirmed, or right after he was confirmed, he made a comment. He said that, and I totally agree with this comment, that the Department of Housing and Urban Development has done a great job over the years, but it could have done more. And I think that's where I believe Dr. Carson is moving the agency to do more. Every year, there's always a report coming out either by the Urban League, which is called their State of Black America. You have the NAACP coming out with their report. You have different organizations about the state of poverty, and poverty is increasing. The issue is that is there an exit strategy when these agencies provide services for folks to no longer need their service? See, we do a great job with the safety net. We make sure through the safety net that folks don't fall into total depravity. We do a great job, but once the safety net has you, what is the exit strategy for you to leave the safety net so you no longer need to stay in the safety net? That second part of the question is which I have been arguing about with HUD and with politicians and with senior officials over the last 7-8 years. There needs to be an exit strategy, and for us, our exit strategy is how do we slowly transition folks from the Cleveland Avenue to step-up housing and back into the mainstream. For that to happen, you need some flexibility in rules and regulations and some flexibility of your existing funding stream.
Who are the leaders in Winston-Salem that you've worked directly with in the community that have been particularly helpful to the mission of HAWS?
Oh, on the top of the list, I would have to say Mayor Alan Joynes. He has been a staunch supporter, and he has backed me every which way he can. Council members, from Councilmember Burke to Montgomery to Dee Dee Adams to particularly Robert Clark, Councilmember Elsie McIntyre, Dan Bessie. I mean, they've all done great jobs. Molly Light when she was there. We have great relationship with nonprofit groups. The United Way. Their ED has done a great job, Sydney Gordonier, and she has taken this concept of outcome-based funding to the next level. She's now, have a pilot project that she's looking at when we fund agencies to go and work with the family. Just don't tell me how many families you're working with. Start reporting on what changes have those families experienced, where they need less and less of this service. Outcome-based services. That is the philosophy that I believe was founded in New York City, the Harlem Children's Zone, Mr. Godfrey Canada. His whole thing is that don't tell me how many kids you work in after school. If you have an after-school program that you call an educational program, how many of those kids' educational level has increased since you've been working with them? Or how many have graduated? Not how many have registered for college, but how many graduated college. It's outcome-based, not just counting heads. That's what I think some of the leaders here are doing. Art Gibble over at the Goodwill, great organization. We had other groups called, I can't think of that. Her name was Paula McCoy. She was with a group called Neighbors Making Better Neighborhoods. Excellent organization. They've done a lot in terms of community organizing, getting residents ready for economic change. You can't live without them. Habitat for Humanity, great partner. We've sold property to them under market, and the results, they've built affordable housing and have built out one of our biggest Hope 6 projects, Kimberly Park. All the lots now have been sold to them. They're in the last phases of building, and then we'll finish at the last 17 lots ourselves. So we've had some great partners here.
Looking for, let me digress just for a minute and go back. Some of the projects you mentioned, and I have a very diverse listening audience here on WPOB. And when I say diverse, I'm talking now about conservative, to I hope I bring in, others. Some I would say, well, why is there a homeless community? You have a lot of projects that offer programs to provide immediate access to housing.
Correct.
But yet there's several different housing shelters that seem to be full at all times, and then people that don't take advantage of that either.
That's correct. This one I start off by talking about rules and regulations, and this is one of the biggest misconceptions about the role of a housing authority. Housing authorities were never created to be emergency housing. Their goal was to provide permanent housing or temporary housing for working families. You can go back to the historical record. Public housing, to live there initially when it was first designed, you had to be employed. There was no subsidy. So people call us today and they say, aren't you supposed to be helping the poor? Yes, we will help you, but there is a process.
Help you, not save you.
Correct. Exactly. And there's a difference. And we think sometimes saving individuals, you make them more dependent. helping individuals with saying that, you need to meet me halfway. I'll do some things, but I need you to do some things to make things better. And eventually I'm going to start pulling back because now you can do this on your own, okay? We're slowly going to transition you from my agency rather than keeping you for the rest of your life and then keeping your children dependent and your grandchildren dependent. That benefits me as an agency to say there's a need out there, but I haven't really helped that family. So that's one of the big differences. But let me go back to the homeless issue. In our Section 8 program, which is vouchers, like I said, we have 4,500 vouchers that we manage annually. We have a waiting list. Our waiting list is about to be reopened up. I got here in 2006. I think it was around 2008. We opened it up for 5 days. In 5 days, we collected 6,000 applications. 6,000 in 5 days. It took us from 2008 to now to exhaust that 6,000 name waiting list. So we're about to reopen it up. Federal law says that I cannot take, because your house just burnt down, I just can't say, well, you're really bad shape. Exactly. The list is closed, so you can't even put your name on the list.
So that would mean that there's a lot of opportunity out here for real estate investors.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. But folks need to understand is that affordable housing is not
for the faint of heart.
It's not for the faint of heart, but the cash flow is not the same thing as building downtown. Okay, because you have a different mission. At the same time, you do have bills to pay, so it can't be free housing. And that's where the dilemma comes in. Folks say, well, you're supposed to be helping me, and fine. But there's nothing physically wrong with you. There is a job across the street. Well, I don't want to work at that job. I understand that's not your career job, but you need to have some income to help us help you.
Real E-Savvy Radio continues in a moment with Larry Woods, CEO of the Housing Authority of Winston-Salem. Stay with us. Let's rejoin Christopher Cox as he continues his interview with Larry Woods, CEO of the Housing Authority of Winston-Salem.
Back with Larry Woods from Halls. I'm always tempted to say the Winston-Salem House, but it's the Housing Authority of Winston-Salem.
Yes.
All right. Moving forward, you've given a lot of great information. My mind's blown because Title VI. I do want to ask that. Apart from everything we talked about, even on the break, what does Title VI mean?
You mean Hope 6?
Hope 6.
Hope 6 was an initiative that goes back to the Clinton administration. It stands for Housing Opportunity for People Everywhere. And the initial goal of Hope 6 was to recapitalize obsolete public housing. You wasn't allowed at that time to demolish, but you could totally gut, rehab, and change the configuration. And so Philadelphia Housing Authority was one of the first ones in the country to receive the $50 million grant, plus you got $11 million of what's called replacement housing factor monies.
That's what brought the high rises down.
That's correct. And
the high rises.
Yeah, and so under that program, as the years went by, the Hope 6 program, through feedback from the practitioners, the housing authorities, would get back to the federal government saying this program needs to be expanded. Some of the buildings you're asking us to rehab, it'll be cheaper to knock them down and build brand new. So the next round of Hope 6s, you could actually demolish and build brand new. We also need to figure out how to deconcentrate poverty. There needs to be some requirement to come back rather than the guaranteed rate of return, because we're bringing back the same tenants that caused the problems. So then there became some other options that came in there. So over time, Hope 6 began to morph into what I thought was a bigger, better program. And then under the Obama administration, Hope 6 translated into choice neighborhoods. Same concept, but greater flexibility, and it also introduced private market developers as partners into the development opportunities.
But wasn't that kind of in place? And I go back to Philadelphia, and I'm thinking Kenny Gamble. Wasn't that in place before?
Kenny Gamble was with
Universal Homes.
Universal Homes Development. Yes, Kenny Gamble was working very closely under the Carl Green administration. Now, Kenny Gamble did receive some benefits under the Hope 6 as one of the developers. That is correct. That was probably under year 2 or year 3 funding for Hope 6. Under Carl Green administration, they received at least 3-4 Hope 6s, plus did a lot of tax credits, which Kenny Gamble was involved in, and working along the South Broad Street community to revitalize that whole area. And it's made a tremendous difference.
Yes, I'm a witness. So for Winston, moving forward, what do you see happening in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, our goal is to hopefully to continue to work with the current federal administration, particularly Dr. Carson. We would like to try to receive some type of pilot or demonstration agency designation that will allow us to have some more greater flexibility with the rules and regulations. There is some legislation that allows for that. It's called a moving to work designation. We would like to have that designation. With that, we believe one is that we can start to take a look at how to work with private developers in maintaining some affordable units downtown within the existing housing stock. Right now, downtown Winston-Salem is losing affordable housing. Your waiters, your waitresses, your dishwashers, etc., your minimum wage employees, they work downtown, but they can't afford to live downtown because the rents are too high.
That's a national trend, though.
A national trend, and we think that there are some innovative ideas in which we can come up with mixed finance, mixed income communities through existing programs. But we need the ability to test them out, and that's why we like to be a demonstration. We also like to see Winston-Salem become more of an affordable housing developer, building not just small complexes, 30, 40 units, but also building single-family homes and the ability to sell homes to low-income families, to give families their first starter home, and then use that starter home as equity to sell and then flip and then move into a bigger home. We think that's a good model. Also like to have the ability to help finance other agencies that will partner with us to build affordable housing. Of course, we'd like to continue to diversify our housing portfolio.
I guess that would be what you call your wish list.
My wish list, my biggest wish list is that we would like to continue our internal capacity building that will allow us to go out and help other housing authorities and partner with them and share our vision and mission.
Technology and green space. How does that fit into the future? And you know, because I'm sure that would be part of the argument if somebody says, "Okay, you're coming down to make it green. The rest of us is green."
Well, I tell you, we have done some energy efficiency and some green and some technology developments within internally of our own organization. When we first arrived here, we have what we call Section 8 inspectors or housing choice vouchers. They go out and they inspect someone's home before we agree to provide that landlord with a lease to lease to a tenant, and that was really paper intensive. Right now, each one of them have a tablet. They get their work assignments over an email. The tablet has a tracking chip, and we know exactly where they are all hours of the day. So if a landlord says, listen, I've been here for 2 hours, and the person that showed up, according to our tracking chip, he was there, you wasn't there, and his policy is you give me 15 minutes and then he goes to the next appointment. So you have to reschedule. That has cut down on a lot of paperwork and a lot of legwork. Same thing with work orders. We now have a digital work order system. Family can call up. We will give you a work order number. We can then track that number and tell you when that maintenance person is going to fix your leaky faucet or repair your door, and then get back in contact with you to see if they've done a good job and you're satisfied. When we open up our Housing Choice Voucher waiting list, you no longer will have a paper application. You can use your iPhone. You can go to the library and go online and fill out a preliminary application and be given a number which will tell you where you are on the list and how soon you should be called for an interview with the possibility of getting a voucher. All of our projects that we're developing right now, we're using high energy efficiency appliances, refrigerators, stove, microwaves, air conditioning, whole iron efficiency, which keeps the price down. Just recently, we worked with the city and with Carolina Bank to purchase the old Hope Village property. We renamed it Fairview Landing, and last week we've been working closely with Duke Energy. They have designated that particular development for an energy upgrade. So they're bringing in new thermostats, they're wrapping pipes for us, they're wrapping hot water heaters to help the tenants keep their utility costs down. That's what I call a good partner. That's how technology is working with us, and I think they see us as a good partner trying to do the right thing, and they're working with us. And the beneficiaries of that are the tenants. The utility bills should be going down very quickly now.
Okay, we've covered a lot. Like I said, my mind's blown. I've never, in any of my interactions, but going back to that 1995 interview with John Wayne Jr., had this much information about public housing at one time. Is there anything that we missed that you want to talk about?
No, but I would like to say that We welcome developers, welcome city officials to come and sit down and talk with us. We're prepared to work with any developer in terms of major projects. We believe that some of the downtown developments need to have affordable units. We would like to try to get the approval from the HUD to use some of our vouchers for working families that could live in these units, and that the voucher could make up any type of rental monthly differences to allow families to stay downtown. We think that's something that needs to be explored, and then we like to get a university to do a white paper on it. Talk about the best practices and how it could be improved, so they could have national implications for other housing authorities across America.
Have you partnered? Does any of the universities within Winston-Salem have? I guess it would be a school of community or urban planning.
Urban planning. Also, we've also tried to partner with universities that have MBA programs. We think some of our approaches have to use a business approach. We also like to partner with schools that have School of Nursing and social work. Nursing, because many of our tenants have health issues, where they need to have their blood pressures checked, or they need to have diets.
And I'm a witness, because with through Sathos Temple 170, you partnered with us.
That's right.
To do the diabetes initiative.
That's right.
You really did a great job. I appreciate. I'm gonna say thank you in person.
You're welcome.
For helping put that information out there, and hopefully that help people.
Yeah, one of the things we tried to do a couple of years ago is there was a teenage diabetes study that was going to be taken on by one of the universities, and we were saying, well, maybe we could donate some vacant land and have these same kids who are being studied to learn how to grow vegetables, and then make sure that they eat the vegetables that they grow, and then have them go back to the university to have annual checkups or quarterly checkups
to see how
right. And now one is you're getting folks out and exercising, but you're talking about nutrition and how food grows. I mean, believe a lot of kids in the urban community have never seen a carrot in the ground, or a potato, or a tomato or a cucumber plant. Those are something I think they will find fascinating. And if they're growing it, and they say, I can grow this in my backyard or in a barrel near my home, and I can have fresh vegetables, fresh produce, something to think about.
Okay. Again, I truly appreciate your time.
Thank you
for helping make my audience real East savvy.
Real East Savvy Radio continues with Christopher Cox and Algernon Cash in a conversation about real estate investment.
So again, welcome to Real East Savvy. Today's guest is Algernon Cash, who I don't need to introduce him. Everybody knows him. Wharton Gladden, investment banker, realist with a specialization in real estate.
That's correct. I've been doing that for about 15 years now.
And when I was in high school, I just saw investment banker and how much they made. And I said, that's, one day that looks like a good job. Yeah. I had no idea what an investment banker does. Could you explain?
I still don't. I've been doing it for 15 years, and every day is sort of a new day and a learning opportunity. But for the most part, it really is a very tough term to sort of describe, because investment bankers do so many different things. You do have some investment bankers that focus on taking companies public. You have investment bankers that may work with the commodities market, whether it's like oil or gold or those kind of things. And then you have investment bankers like myself that may work with corporations more so in an advisory capacity. So you have investment bankers that do a lot of different things in terms of serving the marketplace.
And I recently, because we're a social network, always see you at restaurants and promoting food. Is that
That's one of my focus. Yeah, that's been one of my focuses for the last, 4 or 5 years now. When I first started, I was mostly focused on advising financial institutions and working with them on liquidating assets like whole loans and residential loans and commercial mortgages and those kind of instruments. From there, I sort of evolved into working with real estate companies and helping them raise capital to acquire or develop or reposition real estate assets. And then in the last few years, I've been really focused on working with food service type companies, and particularly companies that have fast casual type concepts that can scale. So things like burger concepts and coffee shops and these types of fast casual concepts that tend to have very limited menus, maybe only 20 or 25 items, but have this ability to scale through franchise.
Okay. The story of the start of Wharton Gladden, and like you were telling your story, we were at an Urban League event, and you talked about going to the Piedmont Club and just trying to make sure you remember. It wasn't really the time for you to be remembered, but you made sure you remembered. I said, that's my story. That's what made me have you come on here. So, do you want to talk about that on air? So.
Yeah, I used to be really involved in the Piedmont Club. That was actually one of the first sort of, I guess you could say, organizations that I joined when I was trying to get out in the community and start networking and building relationships. Eventually, I joined the Board of Governors there. I chaired the membership council. I led one of their inaugural membership campaigns, helped start various business councils within the Piedmont Club, like the Triad Real Estate Council, the Piedmont Women's Forum, the Small Business Council that we had. So I was really active there and got involved at a very young and early age because I felt like that was a great central hub for me to start building connections and developing relationships. And I think it was pretty key in terms of me being able to meet a lot of the people that you say I know around town now.
Yeah, and I unfortunately the Piedmont Club's not here anymore, but just try to make my audience really savvy and have an understanding of the networking that took, like you said, to develop those relationships to get to where you're at now. And I asked you in specifically today because I have so many people, you say real estate, and everybody says, well, maybe I'll get an investment property, and you never know whether it's really, truly, you're giving somebody the best advice to get into that field for the first time. Mm-hmm. What will you use as parameters to decide whether or not an investment property, getting into investment properties and managing properties is for you?
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of what I call direct real estate investing, meaning actually owning real property. There's a lot of ways for you to get exposed to the real estate market. I mean, nowadays you can buy mutual funds and exchange traded funds that actually track real estate properties. You can get involved with real estate investment trusts and owning shares in companies that actually go out and acquire, develop, and rehab real estate property. That's probably one of the safest ways to get in because those markets tend to be a lot more liquid. So if you get into a transaction or an opportunity that you want to get out of, you want a position you want to liquidate, it's a lot easier to do it because it's mainly you're just trading shares out in the marketplace. But if you go the route of direct real estate investing, meaning you actually own a house or you own a commercial building, those types of assets are very illiquid. So if all of a sudden you buy this building and you want to get money out of it or you need your money back, it's not as easy as calling up your broker and saying, hey, I want to sell that building. Well, it may take them about 6 or 8 months to sell the building, which means it may take you quite a bit of while to liquidate your position. So I think depending on how liquid you are as an investor or an individual, that's probably how you want to determine your route in terms of getting entry into the real estate market.
So, couple things. Going back, how would someone go into getting a real estate investment trust?
Yeah, buying shares in a REIT or doing those kind of things. Right. Yeah, I mean, some of it you can just do on your own. I mean, if you've got a Charles Schwab account or whatever brokerage account that you may operate or utilize, it's just a matter of sort of searching out some different companies that are involved in doing those kind of deals. I used to be a lot more knowledgeable about the companies that do those kind of deals when I used to be in that space, but it's really easy for you to go do some independent research on, or if you don't want to do the independent research or you feel like you just don't know enough and you want to get a professional involved, just about any financial advisor can help you with gaining access with those kind of opportunities. Now, if you want to do direct real estate investing, not only does it require more liquidity for you to be able to do it, but it also, you actually have to have a lot more time and knowledge about how real estate works because it's such a location type driven thing, and it's hard to get information and data about which buildings you should be acquiring and who owns that building, because a lot of times you have to do a little bit of research to figure that out. So I think the barriers to entry when it comes to direct real estate investing is the reason why you don't have a large number of people doing it.
Now, when you say that, does that include flipping and holding properties, like the difference between the two?
Yeah, I mean, even flipping requires some liquidity because you've got to tie up your cash in an asset for a period of time before it retrades. And there's a huge amount of risk that if you can't trade it as fast as you thought you were going to be able to trade it, then now your liquidity is really tied up in that property. and you've got to figure out how to work out of that position. So I mean, whether it's flipping or buying and holding property for a long period of time, which is what I favor more, the barriers to entry are a lot higher than if you said, hey, I want to go own 100 shares of Google. Well, that's very easy to do. I mean, and that's why you have, when you look at the stock market or the bond market, that's why you have a lot more people who participate in that space, because it's the barriers to entry are a lot lower.
With interest rates being where they're at and the stock market performing well, would you would it be safe to say that REITs are doing really well now?
Yeah, I mean, I know
you said that you haven't been following them like you were.
Yeah, I don't know what average returns are right now, so I wouldn't be able to quote any of that. But I think generally, the entire equities market seems to be doing extremely well right now.
Back to something else, because you give me a lot of information digest as well. Really savvy. So, hands-on real estate investment. Is there a particular commercial versus residential that you prefer or would prefer or recommend? I mean,
I prefer commercial, but there's a lot of people that obviously gain entry in the market by focusing on residential property. It requires a lot less liquidity to be able to do residential deals. That marketplace is a lot larger. It's probably a lot easier for you to do like research around which houses to buy, which neighborhoods to go into. So, I mean, within the real estate investing space, I think residential has a much lower barrier to entry than commercial.
How about risk?
That's hard. It's hard to say. I mean, because commercial is such a large term. I mean, when you think about commercial, you really have to start thinking even more in detail about, you have multifamily, you have hospitality, you have office, you have retail, you have industrial properties, you have a lot of special use properties like daycare centers and churches and et cetera, et cetera. So like all those different types of asset classes are looked at very, very differently. So it's hard to say, well, is it riskier to buy residential over commercial? I mean, you almost have to look at it on a transaction by transaction basis to answer that question.
Financing, take it down to the liquidity question. Are the bank loan to values, and I've been in banking, I haven't done a lot of commercial transactions. The loan to value or the down payment, out of pocket expense for a commercial transaction, as opposed to putting it into a REIT or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea, or as opposed to typically someone may say, okay, I'll put 3% or 5% down to buy my house. Mm-hmm. How does that relate in terms to, I'm thinking about buying this corner store, I'm buying this laundromat?
Yeah, I mean, and that's sort of what I meant earlier. I mean, the required liquidity to get into a commercial deal is going to be much higher. So you may be able to buy a residential property for 5 or 10% down, depending on what type of loan program you're using, or you may even be able to buy it for 0 down if your personal credit is really strong. And those types of options don't really exist within commercial. I mean, most times if you're buying a commercial asset, you're putting 20 or 25% down.
Okay, that's what
and then, the asset prices are a lot higher. So, I mean, you may be buying a building for $1 million. And so if you're putting 20 or 25% down, that's $250,000. So, I mean, the liquidity required to even get into one of those deals is a lot higher.
Okay. Well, I'm thinking too more and dealing with my listening audience. Don't know the liquidity level, but just keeping it neighborhood and saying that corner store that's been sitting there, or this opportunity that I think would be a good one, because I could put a daycare in there, or I could put, and the numbers are a lot lower. That doesn't change those dynamics within the financing arena.
No, I mean, most times, if you're buying a commercial building because you want to operate a business in it, then you may be able to qualify for some small business type financing, like through the SBA, where you would be able to get a much higher loan to value, maybe somewhere around 85, potentially 90%, depending on how the SBA looked at the deal. But if you're buying it for investment, then no, you wouldn't be able to get those kind of loan to values. So I mean, just again, all the moving parts and the dynamics of commercial. It's some of the reasons why a lot of people aren't involved in that space.
Involved in that space. And that's interesting to know, because that, as far as what you said about the SBA and putting that into a bigger package, which would include some of the things that you would need to actually, the tangible assets that you need within the building to actually operate the business that would be part of, potentially part of that transaction.
Yeah,
also.
some of the furniture, fixtures, and equipment and those kind of things too could sort of be built into the loan package, yeah.
Okay. How, is there anything else that I may be missing within your space of the real estate investment banking?
I tell you, it's a large space, so we have to do a lot of shows to cover it. I mean, like I said, I've been in it for 15 years, and today I'm going to learn something new this afternoon. So I mean, every day is sort of a learning opportunity,
isn't it? Yeah, because I just went through the real estate classes out, and same way I spent a good portion of my life either as a real estate agent or a mortgage banker. 3 layoffs in 18 months knocked me out. I went and got my CDL license, was driving, was never getting back into it, but here I am. So, and things change. It's ever evolving, changing. So just like we're talking about programs and this amount done, don't quote us, because it could change tomorrow. I mean, the markets are so fluid and have potential. Underwriting potentially always has a potential to change up.
All the time. Yeah, I mean, markets are always cyclical. So the only thing we know about change is that it's definitely coming. So.
Okay. Well, again, it was a pleasure.
Yes.
I'm glad to have you in. You're a very busy person, so I appreciate the time coming in. Again, Eyes Drop Really Savvy, helping my audience become really savvy and trying to educate people in terms of different spaces and areas within real estate. So, again,
I appreciate it. I'd love to come back. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
RealESavvy.com has resources to help you become more informed about home ownership. Visit the website and stay tuned for the next Real eSavvy radio broadcast with Christopher Cox every fourth Sunday at 9 a.m. Real eSavvy Radio is a production of RealESavvy.com and is produced through the facilities of Southern Broadcast Media, LLC.